Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of DIY Startup with John Ash. I'm John Ash. Tonight, we're going to talk about business and business related things. If it's your first time here, I just want to let you know the idea of the show. The idea of the show is that this is a place where we talk about the business of business, setting up a business. So if you're a small entrepreneur with just an idea, looking to start up a business, you don't know really where to start or haven't thought about a lot of detail about where to start starting up your own enterprise, this is the place to come to. Every week at Friday or so, we talk about um, basic things you need to know when you're thinking about planning a business, whether it's starting a company that makes things, devices, or a web service, or you're thinking about creating a mobile app. This is the place to come, and hopefully, I'll enlighten you with a couple of things that I learned in the past. I've been doing consulting work for quite some time for a lot of small companies. I have my own small company. So I have some things that I learned along the way, and I hope to impart some wisdom on you. This is brought to you by E2E Society, e2esociety.com. E2E Society is a group of people that are trying to help entrepreneurs connect to entrepreneurs. So we're trying to make it so that entrepreneurs can get the help that they need. We mainly focus on Fairfield County in Connecticut, but the advice and the things that you can learn from us can be applied to any region. We always say, I say it every week, same thing. I say that there are lots of organizations and lots of things out in your local community that are geared to helping entrepreneurs. And sometimes all you have to do is open up your eyes and look around and ask for help. And you can get help with whether it's money or just simply advice. There's a lot of things out there to help small business owners and entrepreneurs just like us. Um, so, like I said, just look around. So there's the live chat in the side. So if you want to, you could chat. Let me know how the sound and video is tonight. Struggling the last couple of weeks with the settings on OBS Studio and the YouTube Live Studio. They don't really like each other. I like to play, but together. But I'm figuring it out, and that's actually what the show is all about. It's a very relaxed mood. Of course, I'm very relaxed, not too professional, and um, we can start a conversation about anything you'd like in business. Every week that I do this live stream, I pick a topic, and hopefully the topic will open up your eyes a little bit more to these details that you probably never would have thought of unless you went to business school. I didn't go to business school, but I learned by the School of Hard Knocks. So I'd like to start a conversation with you guys on it. Tonight we're going to talk about something pretty good. Be sure you do what you say you're going to do, how to plan out your product or company or enterprise or app or web service or whatever you have so that you could actually do what you say you're going to do. Throughout history, there's been many products and web services and mobile apps that just simply did not do what they say they were going to do, pie in the sky type things, whether it was the future or the world wasn't ready for them or it was poor design and planning on their part. We're going to talk about all these things actually. I have some pretty good notes and some good examples at the end of some products that didn't really do what they said they were going to do, and a couple of web services that said that didn't do what they said they were going to do, all washed away in the sands of time. And you don't want to you want to make sure that you are not part of that sands of time. So if you watch this show, and if you go back in other episodes, all of these little seminars that I've been giving, um, all of these things together will help you plan out an enterprise so that you're kind of future proof and you won't go out of business. Not because of trying, it might be something else. It's pretty good. Okay, so let's check the chat. Janine is there. That's pretty good. There's two viewers, six playbacks, whatever that is. So we got some activity there in the chat. I'm pretty happy about that. Let me know how the audio is this time. It says that the dashboard says my connection is excellent. Whatever that is. We had a peak of 6 viewers at one point. Well, that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, want to get started? Let's get started. Let's take a drink of water first. Very exciting show, watching me drink water. Some people like that type of thing. Okay, great. So I prepared a couple of slides. If you want to get started with it, let's wait a couple of minutes. I usually go about 10 minutes in before I start the slides, which is what I'll do. So this Yeah, entrepreneurs helping entrepreneurs. There's lots of places that you could go for help. Like I said before, if you look around, just in Fairfield County, just to Connecticut, just the place where I live, there's a lot of organizations and entrepreneurial organizations and foundations and all these things. The Entrepreneurship Foundation, hosted by a guy named Mike Rohr, does a fantastic job. He's a one-man band. Talk about a fantastic entrepreneur. He built a whole brand out of that one thing, and he puts in overtime like nobody's business. Um, Google that, check that out. If you want to, actually, we're going to try to pull a couple of those people in to be co-hosts and guests on the DIY Startup Show. And actually, ED Society is thinking about planning another show, another series on this channel where me and a bunch of other business-minded entrepreneurs get together and discuss one business topic per week. I think that'd be very interesting. We're kicking around the idea of presenting another show, another series on the channel about trying to pull in guest stars, like guest people, to talk and interview people about their experiences with entrepreneurs, being a successful one, and maybe sometimes not being a successful one. There's no shame in trying, you know. So we're thinking about those. Look for those in the next couple of weeks. Of course, it's the new year, so it takes about a month or so before everybody gets started and gets the fires burning on this. I find that in the Northeast, at least, when the temperature rises, the interest rises. You know, so we'll see what happens. I'll feel better when the winter's gone. All right, that's good. So let's start with a couple of slides, shall we? Let's move over to this vacancy. Here we go. Okay. This is the topic for the night. It's a pretty good one. It's all of these things that I talk about every week, Friday, seem like very, very simple elementary things, but you have to really kind of think about them if you want to have a successful enterprise or business. Be sure you do what you say you do or how to deliver to the customer. Um, this isn't really a professional presentation. Like I said before, I didn't really go to business school, and I'm basically sure, I'm willing to bet that if you went to business school, you study an awful lot about how to deliver exactly what you say you're going to do, whether it's a product or a service or an app or anything like that. A lot of planning has to go into taking that stuff into account. Recently, what caused this episode is that I bought a car off an online one of the bigger online car buying services, and everything was fantastic. The whole process was great. They had documents exactly how I wanted. They had all the contracts automatically generated. A shot for a car. I got pictures. Fantastic. The whole thing was going great until the time came time to actually deliver the car. You know, that's one of the things that they say they're going to do. They say that they'll deliver the car directly in your driveway, and I was pretty astounded to figure out that they delayed the delivery of the car like an entire week. So if you watch the commercials for this service, one of the main points is that they show the truck pulling up in your driveway with the car. And actually, to their credit, it did. The truck showed up exactly like the commercial, and it had my nice car on the back of it. And I was very happy at that point. But it kind of left a bitter taste in my mouth when it went wrong the first time. I mean, delaying the car delivery by a week, it's not a day or a couple of hours. It was like 7 business days. So, 7 calendar days. So that kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. And actually, the truth is, to their credit, the truth is that the car was coming from pretty far away. And I actually would have been more surprised if it showed up, because I think they promised it in 4 days. I signed the contracts, and then they promised that the car was scheduled to be there in 4 days. So I probably would have been more surprised if it was there ahead of time. So it wasn't that I was surprised that the delivery got pushed off, but it was just I was like a little on the disappointed side. Wasn't too happy. Wasn't too happy with that. Kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. But like I said before, to their credit, the second time that they scheduled the delivery, it showed up exactly how it was supposed to be. Quality of the car was awesome, exactly how they say. But it was that one thing. It's you better make sure that you do what you say you're going to do. Let's go back to that slide. You better be sure that you do what you say you're going to do. You actually deliver the product or the service exactly how you say you're going to deliver it, because just like the second slide shows, oh, look at this nice seg in there. That's nice. You only get one chance to make a first impression. That is true. That is true, especially in these times, I feel. Trying to put this little seminar together, this little presentation together, I started thinking about business in modern times. You know, I'm not talking about COVID and coronavirus and like that. I'm talking about running and starting a business in modern times. And for a consumer, it's a fantastic time. You can sit on your couch and get anything you want. In fact, if you flip around, chances are good, just like it says over here, chances are there's a lot of options for people to get the same product that you make, the same service that you offer, and the same mobile app that you make. There's two or three of each thing. It's pretty rare that you catch an idea that's so unique it doesn't get copied in a relatively short amount of time. That's the hazard, you know. So you come up with a product, or you come up with a service, or you come up with a web app, and you introduce it to the world, and before you know it, you get a copy or a duplicate, or somebody going, oh, that's pretty easy to do, and they make their own, and especially if you own products. So I suppose the only advantage that you could have is that you would be so far ahead in development and so mature in the idea that it would take them 6 months, 8 months, a year to catch up to your development. And that's the only time that you have to actually be ahead, especially if you got products like newer industries. I'm talking about the IoT space, and I'm talking about any kind of electronic devices that you have. It's just a pretty good, you'll be copied pretty quickly, just that's the way it is. Web services, sorry to say, but they get copied and duplicated pretty quickly, and usually the second ones are a little bit more thought out because they don't have to think about doing they don't have to break ground like you did, with your initial one. Let's see what the next slide is. Hold on, I kind of lost track of what I was doing. Let's check the old chat before we go on any further. It's not even warming up my voice. Okay, 7 playback, so that's pretty good. So we got a lot of people. Please chat in there. Let me know if the audio and the video is good tonight. I need to know that. If you write at EDE Society in the chat, it will come right to me. In fact, it's highlighted in yellow, so it'll stick out and I'll be able to see it. See it pretty good. I'll be able to pick up on it quicker. Let's say it that way. Okay. I only get one chance to make a first impression. You know, that car buying service, it was perfect up until the time when they rescheduled the car delivery. Kind of like, I would probably use the service again, but it made me a little leery of if I did buy a car from that same web service, it would make me feel a little bit doubtful about the delivery date. That's all I'm saying. They only had one shot to do that, and here I am on a live stream telling a bunch of people about it. I didn't mention the service. There's a bunch of them. That's a good example. There's a bunch of different places that you can buy cars online. So if you have a website like that, you better make sure that it's rock solid. Okay, next one. Think long term. Here is a very common mistake that people make when they're setting up expectations for customer delivering to customers, right? You got to think past the lifespan of your current thing. You have to kind of think, when people come up with a new idea, I'm guilty of the same thing. People come up with a new idea or a new product or a new design. Boy, they want to just get it out there quick. They want to just get the money. They just want to get the thing out there and show everybody what they did and put it for sale so that everybody can buy it and they can start, I don't know. So you could start with the business proper, doing whatever you're going to do with the business. So you kind of got to think past that. You got to think about the past. You got to think past the initial spark of the thing, the initial release and the launch of the thing. When you're first planning it, you got to sit down a little bit and think about, well, what am I going to do for 2 years? So what am I going to do in 3 years? Am I going to be doing the same product? Is it going to be the same service? Is this web app going to be relevant in 2 years? Am I going to be able to deliver? So there's some things that I thought of quick about setting customer expectation. So when you're setting up your business goals, so you're setting up your customer expectation goals, when you're presenting to your customer the things they could expect from your service or device or product or whatever kind of commodity you made, you got to kind of think about it in a realistic way, time-wise. What I mean by that is you have to kind of think past the initial spark, past the initial launch, past the initial bunch of people that are going to be using your service for a short time. You got to think about, in a year, in 2 years, what is this business idea going to look like, and how do I set up my customers so that they can expect what they're going to get in a reasonable amount of in a reasonable way. Sorry. All right, first thing, can you keep delivering the same quality if demand increases? So that's nice. So let's say you have a small business, just for an example, a small business on Etsy, you're selling pot holders. It's fantastic. So you get a couple of orders a week. You're pretty happy with that. You get 100 orders a week. Like, wow, this is pretty good because you got a featured spot. All of a sudden, Oprah Winfrey mentions your pot holders, and the demand increases. Boom, you get 1,000 orders a week. Are you going to be able to deliver the same quality? You're going to be able to deliver on the same timeline if your demand increases. If Oprah goes on and she says that these are the best potholders that they've ever seen, and it's awesomepotholders.com, and it happens to be your your business, are you going to be able to deliver the same quality if the demand increases? You got to think about that. So when you're creating your initial product, can you keep delivering the same way if costs increase? Okay, so it's 2021 already, if you can believe that. And although it's expensive to buy and get things, it might get more expensive. You never know when there's going to be a tariff levied on your electronics that you're counting on to make your product, or some kind of like taxes that are going to influence the price of your manufacturing. Or if something changes in your ISP, it costs you more to host your website. Let's say you're hosting your website on AWS, which is very common, or Azure. The prices of that go up. Can you still keep delivering the same way if cost increases? Car delivery, if you buy used cars online, can they still keep delivering the same way with these tow trucks with cars on them if the price of oil goes up, if the price of gasoline goes up? I don't know. Think about these things. Can you keep delivering over time? Okay. So can you keep running on this treadmill over time? So do you think that when you make your product or make your device or something, can you keep delivering this product in the same way, consistently, with the same quality over the long time? 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 18 years. Do you think you could still keep running on the treadmill, making these things, boxing them up and sending them out, and making these things and boxing them up and sending them out, responding to if somebody has some kind of a warranty claim? You gotta have a way that you're gonna receive the defective things and send out the new ones. Like, can you keep up on the treadmill of your product production, whatever that may be? If you have a mobile app, can you keep delivering over time? Do you have the energy and the stamina to keep making updates to your app every time a new phone comes out, every time a new iOS version comes out? You got to keep checking all the stuff. You got to have endurance. You got to think about the long term. And can your device or app or service keep performing the same way with the same consistent quality over time? That's a long-term idea. You got to think about the time dimension of your business, past the initial spark, like I said before. Can you deliver the same way if your product changes? So go back, if you want to go back to a previous episode, I talked about how to plan for the future a little bit. Go back to that episode and watch that. Um, your initial product might change. Your initial service, the service that you offer, might change. And I actually give a lot of good examples in a previous episode if you want to go back and watch that one. You have to think about that. You have to think about the long term. If you could keep delivering your product consistently. Let's check. Okay, well, so let's check the live chat. See what's going on here. Nobody's in. Okay, we got 8 people. That's nice. 8 more viewers. Hey, I'm doing it. All right, stream health looks good. Everything's pretty good. Please let me know how the sound is. I tinkered with something tonight. Sound. Okay, let's keep going. Think long term, past the life of your current thing. Next slide. Delivering products. How to make sure it does what it says, what you say it does. How to make sure it does what you say it does. Who wrote this? Me. Okay. Oh, let me move my guy down. Okay, move my head down a little bit. Initial planning and design work go a long way in making a device or product. I am telling you, you will be very, very excited as an entrepreneur to tell the world about this fantastic product. You want to tell everybody about this mobile app that you made because you think it's the best thing and you spent the last 8 months pining over it. You fall in love with your creations. I do the same thing. It's no secret that a lot of people fall in love with their creations. But the idea is that you have to plan it, and the initial design work goes a long, long way, especially in the beginning of planning a business. I can't emphasize this more. It's easy to make changes in the beginning. Very, very simple. Even if you want to change the name of the company, it's very, very simple in the beginning before you have any kind of established product line. Big, big changes are very, very easy in the beginning. Very, very difficult once you get established. It's very difficult to change your business name once you buy a domain. It's very, very difficult to change your business name or your product's name once you start putting it online, or once you start telling people about it, or once you start going on some webcasts like this one, live streams, and you start telling the public about it. It's very, very difficult to do that. It's very, very difficult to change the color of what you're doing later on. It's very easy to do it during inception, during the design of your initial thing. Your web app, again, go back to that episode 2 episodes ago on mood and style. That I have really, really good examples of how to set the mood and the style of your company. It's easy to change that very, very early in the design phase of the company. Very difficult to do it once you tell everybody about it. So initial planning and design work go a long way in the beginning, making a device or product. So this is talking about, okay, so this slide is talking about the products, the devices. Like this one, or like this one, anything that you touch, or like this one, anything that you have. This goes into products. Things must do their primary thing perfectly every time. If you are in the IoT market space and you're designing IoT products, that's fantastic. You can have the greatest security protocols known to man, but does it turn on? Does it do the primary function perfectly fine? It's got to be rock solid. If you're making an IoT light switch, it has to work perfectly every single time. It's got to communicate with that gateway. It's got to work. It's got to turn on that device every single time. I'm telling you, your primary function has to be rock solid every time. Test that the most. Again, this is the other thing. Where is it? This one, the next one. Watch out for feature creep. Feature creep is it's a common term. It's when you make a device or a product and you start introducing some. Ooh, hey, it's not hard to add another button for a clear screen. Or, hey, it's not hard to add a bigger screen and we can display the temperature. Hey, it's not hard to do this. Let's put another feature. Oh, it's loaded with features. Oh, it'll be fantastic. You have this beautiful feature box filled with icons and esoteric things that nobody knows about, and it's chock full of features. Be careful of that. Save that for the revision 2. Save that for version number 2. It'll be all right if you don't have the backlight in version number 1. You can always put it in version number 2 if it's too difficult to put in there, because extra features mean nothing if it gets in the way of the main function. All of those extra stuff, all those extra things that users could do kind of mean nothing if it gets in the way of that main function of your device. If you're designing a MIDI controller or electronic instrument and the sound is not rock solid, it's got to be all of those other little things, the light and the lights underneath the keys and the weighted keys and the polyphonic aftertouch. It means nothing unless the main function of the thing works perfectly fine, and it has to every time because people expect it. You got to put yourself on the other side of the equation. You got to put yourself on the customer side. If you bought something like a MIDI controller, wouldn't you expect it to work every single time, rock solid? You better believe it. So test your device and make sure that it works perfectly fine before you move on with anything else. You got to deliver the promise. If you say you're going to do something, you better be able to do it. I've been involved with a lot of companies that one of their biggest errors was their main function wasn't properly rock solid. It's got to be right every time. So okay, here's delivering services or a web page. I lump these in like one big category. delivering services. What I mean by that is if you're delivering, if you have a consulting service, or you have a cleaning service, or you have a key locksmith service, uh, and then I lump that in also with the with the web. So if you have a web service, there are a lot of. It's pretty easy to make a web service these days. You got to make sure that it does exactly what the customer expects. How to make sure it does everything the customers expect and nothing they do not expect. See, that's an important part of the thing that nobody really thinks about too. It's not enough to work perfectly fine. You got to make sure when you're dealing with the web and you're dealing with dynamic code and all that other stuff and different browsers and different platforms and all different kinds of computers that it's going to be on, mobile products and all of this stuff, you have to make sure that it doesn't do anything that people don't expect. And I'm not even talking about security loopholes. That's a whole nother episode of like how to test a mobile app to like hack for how to protect your data. That's an entirely different thing. And actually, to be honest with you, that's a team effort. That's a better left up to professionals, because if you're dealing with customers' data, especially if you have any kind of PLA, like any kind of uh, uh, um, like public credit card information or something, if you're like selling things with your mobile app, boy, you better be very careful, because or your web service, because that's a whole nother level of compliance that you have to perform. So be careful. So you have to make sure that there's nothing they do not expect. Okay, testing, 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 testing. I can't tell you enough how many websites you go to, and it's a new website. There's a broken link, or it's a typo, or you click the button to buy and it doesn't actually buy. Test, test, test. Have everybody on your team. If you have 4 partners, you better make sure that those 4 people test that website every single day. But first thing when they come to work, everybody's got to test. There's changes in the code. There's all this stuff. The web is dynamic. Some of your links might change over time. They might change overnight. You put a link on there, next thing you know, you come in and another website that you link to changed. So now you have to change your website to comply with that. It's like a whole thing. Testing, testing, testing. Keep checking. Never get lazy on that. Even after you've completed it, even after you have the machine running, take a look at it. I'm telling you, web is very, very tricky. Um, very rewarding, but it's very, very tricky to maintain. Okay, my next advice is show it to your grandma. You know, that's what I usually do. Show it to my grandma. Can you explain what you do, your web service, your website, your service? Tell your grandma. Let's say let's say you promise to consult on somebody's. Let's say you promise to you create a business that does social media marketing. So you promise to help somebody enhance their social media standings. You help them. You promise to consult with them about Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and get their ratings up and Google and all that other stuff. Try to explain it to your grandma, because the best way I find to derive your 10 word, and your 10 word is your 2 sentences about what your service actually does. You can't say, well, it's a thing, it's a whole pie in the sky thing. You got to break it down to like your elevator speech, your 30 seconds of glory, your 10 word on it. Well, what does it do? You have to be able to explain it concisely. Trying to explain it to your grandma is a way of like getting that boiled down to the simplest thing you could possibly find to describe your service. And I think that's pretty helpful. And can she use it? You know, I don't know. Can she use it? If you got a web service, show it to her on a laptop. See if she can navigate it. See if she can buy something. Hell, give her a T-shirt for free. Something. Show it to your grandma. That's a good idea. I think. I don't know. Makes sense. Makes sense to you? I don't know. Sounds like a good idea. Who doesn't love talking to grandma anyway? Okay, about 9 concurrent viewers. That's pretty good. Don't even chat. Chat? Chat is good. Nobody wants to chat with me? Okay. See, I figured that this would be a good. You should tune into these live. I think it would be good if we had a community on this thing here. We'll figure out a way we can do that. All right. So where were we in this whole thing? Delivering services on the web. Okay. Testing, testing. Right. Show it to grandma. Yeah, it's good advice. Here's delivering a mobile app. Can you do what you say you can do? I don't know. Well, see the previous slide. All of the stuff that goes with web also applies to mobile apps. With mobile apps, you have all of the problems of designing a website. You have all of the 1,000 decisions that it takes to design a website. The colors, the buttons, the links, the function, the flow, the CX, the customer experience, which we'll talk about that too, because I put together like a quick list of reasons why things like this fail. We'll talk about it after. I didn't make a slide, but we can talk about it. With a mobile app, you have all of the problems of designing a website and additional problems of managing it on an array of customer devices. Um, boy, it takes a team to put together a mobile app. If you think you're going to do it by yourself, you better think again. Let's go back to the slide. Testing, testing, testing. You better check your mobile app. You better make sure that all the buttons work exactly. You better shake the phone. They call it something monkey hand, where you take the phone, you have your app open, and you just smash it like that to see what happens. That's testing. That's all in testing. Push like 4 buttons fast. Close the app and reopen it and see if it can recover. That's an important part of Android. I don't know if anybody works on Android Studio, but Android Studio has a specific way you have to program applications recovering. And again, I'm going to put this in the same thing. If you have a mobile app, show it to Grammy. Show it to your grandma. Can you explain your mobile app? Can grandma use it? I don't know. All of the stuff in the previous slide applies to mobile apps. So see the previous slide about testing. See the slide on product and device delivery, because you're also delivering a product in a way. Let's go back to that slide. Now look at this. Now we're going back to the other slide. When you're designing a mobile app, initial planning and design work go a long way in making a design. Stop and think about it. What do we want it to look like? What do we want it to feel like? Things have to do their primary function perfectly every time. You gotta, if you sell, you gotta be able to use the mobile app, and if you're selling food, you better be able to click the icon and you get the food. If you have food delivery, you better be able to do it every single time. All of the same stuff. I got it. All the same stuff also applies to mobile apps. Watch out for feature creep. Extra features don't mean anything if it gets in the way of the main function of the thing. You can put 1,000 icons on the side, and rainbow colors, and sliding, and physics stuff, and your buttons. You go, ooh, look, the ball bounces. When you flick it, the ball bounces. That's fantastic, but the primary function of the mobile app still has to be there. Let's go back to the mobile app thing. Delivering, you like that transition? My daughter taught me that. Delivering mobile apps. Okay, so go back to that slide on product delivery. You gotta have all of that stuff. So you have to try all that stuff with the product delivery and all that stuff with the web app, with the web services when you're compiling a mobile app. You really got to think about this stuff. Check your input boxes and all of your buttons. I can't express it. You have to check that app. Turn off the phone, turn it back on, see if your memory is persistent, if you're storing data. Man, there's a lot that goes in mobile apps. Tread lightly on that one, I'm telling you. Mobile app is probably one of the most exciting things that you could make, I think. You're running at a breakneck speed. You're competing against other people who can easily program in Android Studio or X, and to make your app, and constantly trying to keep up with it and do updates and things like that. It's very thrilling. If you're part of a design team on a mobile app, it's a very, 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 very thrilling time. I'm telling you, but it's an awful lot of work that you have to put into that thing. I've been consulting on many, not many, 5. Is that a many? 5 apps. Some successful, some not successful, but you have to. It takes a lot. Like I said, it's a very thrilling experience, but it takes a lot to prepare for that stuff. So that's kind of the end of my formal slideshow. Delivering mobile apps. So we talked about all 3 things. So what are some reasons? I was hoping that we'd get some chat going about this in the live chat, which is why I'm doing a live stream. If I knew there was going to be no chat, I might switch to a video. If I switch to a video, I could put a little bit more professionalism into this thing. Um, but I was hoping they build up some kind of community on the chat, which is pretty good. That would be a lot of fun for me actually. Um, but let's talk about some reasons that a product might not do, might not deliver for the customers. You know, I put together a couple of things that we could talk about up there. So sometimes you make big promises to customers and you just simply run out of money. You know, you promise to deliver cars with a truck, with a branded truck, and then all of a sudden you start getting a month or 2 months into it and you just simply run out of money. Maybe investors back out. Maybe you just ran out of money. Maybe costs increase. Maybe your lead developer quits and goes to work for Google and you have to start to crew up from scratch, or people start asking for raises. Sometimes you just simply run out of money, and that's the reason why you can't deliver what you say you're going to deliver to the customer. So you want to come up with a B plan. You know, the customer experience, the CX. There's like big studies. That's a whole profession actually. CX and UX. So it's customer experience and user experience. They're kind of the same thing. Um, User experience is usually more toward a web app, like websites and things like that, and mobile apps. Where I think what did I say, customer CX is more toward UX is more toward web or a mobile app. Talked about that. Customer experience is more talked about as a device because it's the packaging and everything that goes in. The person first, when a person first unboxes your thing, what does it look like? If you ever bought an Apple product, you know that they put a lot of effort into the customer experience because it's absolutely gorgeous. The boxes slide out perfectly. Everything's laid out. You get beautiful presentation. Everything's put in layers. You get the cord underneath it, and the thing is wrapped up just perfectly. They spend a lot of time thinking about the customer experience, what the customer is going to think when they first encounter your product. Actually, it goes a long way. The next time you buy something, which is probably in the next few days, think about that. Think about the CX of what the customer experience of whatever you're buying. Well, okay, here's a good example. I got this in the mail from China not long ago. It is a bag of buttons. There's 10, I mean, a bag of knobs. There's 10 knobs in here. Not a very good customer experience. When I get it, I'm like, oh, it's not even, there's no label, there's not anything telling me about the shaft diameter. I have to remember, like, oh yeah, that's right, I ordered those knobs. And they're for the spline shaft and all that stuff like that. So there's very little, like, customer experience with this stuff. When you go out, the best thing that you can do, I feel, if you are developing a business, if you're making a business that creates a product, is to go look at products. Next time you go in Target, look around. Pick up a product that's like what you're going to buy. Go in the toy aisle. Toy companies devote mega time, mega money. They got the best people in the industry to their packaging. Take a look at the packaging. The next time, if you have children, next time a kid opens up something, buy them something random. This is what I suggest. Here's your homework between now and the next episode. Buy a toy for your kid. Buy something random for a kid and give it to them and watch them open it. See what their customer experience is. Is it difficult to open? Does it have a crazy piece of tape? Does it have crazy things strapping the Barbie doll to the box? When you put Barbies, I don't know if you know this, they put this invisible rubber band to banding the head to the back of the box. So Christmas time is always a game of finding those invisible rubber bands that don't exist. That's all goes into customer experience. Buy something for a child. Buy something for your grandma. That's another good idea for grandma. Grandma's on the mind, right? Buy something for your grandma randomly, something, and give it to her, and then just watch her open it. Spend 5 minutes just watching her open it. Don't say anything. Just look at her customer experience, because CX is something you have to think of when you're designing a product. Really doesn't have anything to do with delivering with the initial topic of this uh, live stream, but I just figured I'd mention it anyway because I do that all the time. I look at people using things and opening things. I don't know, CX, bad business. Sometimes you have no business planning. You start, like I said, you kind of have to think past the initial spark of this thing. Let me just change the view because I like this. I like this view better. just to change up the view a little bit. So you have to, bad business when you're starting your product. You got to start thinking past the initial like spark of the thing, just like I said before. I don't know. That might be another good reason. If you have any other good reasons why you might not be able to deliver what you say you're going to deliver, or your product might do, put it in the chat. We'll talk about it. I'll give you a couple of minutes on that one. But yeah, good homework is to buy something for your grandma. Watch her open it up. Tell her about a new app. That's a good one. Tell her about a new app. Hey, Nana, check out this app, this thing, awesome app. She'll, oh, really? I can download it? And she'll download it and then see if she has any questions, especially if it's an app that's like the app that you're, the mobile app that you're developing, or if it's like the web service that you're creating. Show Nana show Grandma one that's kind of like the one that you're designing. Listen to what questions that she has. See where she's struggling in the thing. Take notes. Get out a notebook and go, Grandma, try this web app. I just found out about it. And then as she's doing it, take notes like, she had a problem with finding it in the App Store. Okay, I got to make sure that mine sticks out. Okay, good. Oh, she had a problem downloading it. Oh, make sure that my thing. Oh, it wanted to update right off the bat. She was mad that it had to wait to update. Write these things down. Give it to Grandma. Grandma and kids are awesome focus groups. I find that grandma and children are like incredible focus groups because both of those groups of people are like brutally honest. Children, you cannot put anything past them. If they don't like something or they have a hard time with something, they'll let you know right off the bat. There's no like, oh, it's good, I guess. They let you know right off the bat. Grandma doesn't like something, boy, she'll tell you right off the bat, man. I put together a couple of other slides if you want to go a little bit further on this idea. Let me find out how long. Okay, so we're going for 44 minutes on this one. It's pretty good. If I could talk for an hour, I'd be thrilled. You try to talk for an hour about this stuff. All right. So I put together some additional slides if you want to take a look at it on the things that failed. Ooh, here's some failed products. Here's some products that didn't live up to what they didn't quite deliver what they said they were going to deliver. This is the classic one from 2013. This is the Google Glass. I don't know if you guys remember the Google Glass. Now, it worked. It didn't fail because it didn't work. It worked perfectly fine. It failed because of the marketing behind it. It failed because it didn't exactly do what everybody said it was going to do. They said it was going to change everything in augmented reality. I think they were a little ahead of their time, which is another problem, which is another reason why products fail. There's one in the next slide that was ahead of its time too. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about a web service that was way light years ahead of its time. And the reason why it failed is because it was ahead of its time. So I think that Google Glass was a little bit ahead of its time as far as the technology really wasn't ready, ripe, or whatever, or maybe just people simply didn't understand what augmented reality was and how to make it useful. But Google Glass worked, but it failed because it didn't deliver what it said it was going to deliver. Mainly, it promised to deliver the future, I guess, and kind of didn't do that. Change my, that better? It's my pretty face. So it kind of didn't do what it said it was going to do in the terms of getting everybody to use augmented reality like it was supposed to. To the right, on the right side, is another one that failed. Segway. Remember the Segway? Segway failed. It wasn't because the thing didn't work. It worked perfectly fine. In fact, I found Segway is an interesting one because it resurrected itself in a bunch of different, more lucrative ways than it initially thought. It initially wanted to sell to the public, and the idea behind the Segway was, oh, it's gonna. I remember it. I was very excited for the Segway actually. The problem was politicians outlawed it basically, and the fact that it cost about $3,000 or so when it came out. But the idea was that it was going to revolutionize transportation, and it promised that, oh man, Segway is going to be the new way, and we're going to have mailmen that use Segways, and it's going to be Manhattan, New York City is going to have no more cars or no more subways because subways are going to take over, and everybody's going to be on a subway, and oh, it's going to be great, and fatalities are going to be down. It's so easy to use, and I think it was, and it did all those things, but it failed to deliver in the sense that it didn't deliver the future that it promised. I guess that's what it comes down to. Like it promised to revolutionize the transport thing, and kind of didn't do that. I mean, but you have to give credit to Segway. The way that they pivoted was they started selling to the military and security officers. So they started selling to people who were going to use the Segway on private property. Now that's good thinking. You see a lot of mall cops using a lot of mall security guards using Segways, and it's all private property, so it kind of doesn't follow the same. It's not on the open road, so it's not subject to all those regulations that politicians wanted to put it under. So they started selling to people who use it on private property. In fact, I think they even have an off-roading version of this thing that you can use on like biking trails, which is genius if you ask me. I mean, I think the idea of turning around, taking the same product and like kind of like renovating it to be used in a different way and changing the way the marketing is. I think that's a great idea. Um, I don't know. I think a lot of things came out of the Segway. I know the hoverboard craze of the last decade or so came out of the same technology for Segways without the handle. Funny how that turned out, right? Okay, so here are some web services that failed. Second Life. Does anybody remember Second Life? I would love to hear in the chat if somebody remembers Second Life, because Second Life worked awesome. It didn't fail because the web app, it was okay. So what was Second Life? Let me put it in context for you. I think it was about 2000 or 2001. We were still living in the past version of the future, if that makes sense. So what I mean by the past version of the future was the future that would have happened if things would have went in a steady trajectory. I think that 9/11 in 2001 kind of like bent our future a little bit. I think that we were heading towards the Time Cop. Remember Time Cop, the future that was in Hackers with Angelina Jolie. Remember that? Where technology was like getting dark and bad, and we were running around with these info decks and all that stuff, and got the disc and sneaking around and stuff. But that, like, boy, it's hard to explain it. I hope somebody in the chat reminds me what I'm even talking about. The techno undercover hacker future. So we were living in with that idea, and Second Life came out, and what they promised to do was to give you this second life, this virtual you. So you create, and this is breakthrough at the time. You create your avatar and you make it look how you want to look. If you're skinny, you don't have to look skinny. If you're a girl, you don't have to be a girl. If you're a guy, you don't have to be a guy. You could make your avatar look exactly like your ideal self. Um, and you could put, and they built this whole city, this whole Second Life world where people were actually building the content Second Life. I remember, like, you could open up a store, you could sell things. In fact, they even had their own currency called the Linden. I think it was called the Linden, and it was a whole exchange because you buy Lindens with real dollars, and bring them into Second Life, and you could buy clothes and accessories and stuff. And there were clubs that you could go to, and so the promise of Second Life was to bring your real world into the virtual world, the computer world, where you could live your fantasies and things like that. And I think they failed in the sense that it wasn't that they didn't deliver this. Maybe this shouldn't even be on the list, but they didn't deliver the promise of the future self that it was. Second Life worked perfectly fine. It might still be going. We'll go to secondlife.com after this if you want to. We got a couple of minutes. Okay, here's another one that failed. MapQuest. do you remember MapQuest? MapMess, they used to call it. Boy, everybody had a bad experience with MapQuest. My wife actually brought this one up. Everybody had bad experiences with MapQuest because I think that MapQuest was a little bit ahead of its time. In fact, they were about 9 years ahead of their time. Because don't forget, when MapQuest first came out, I don't really even remember when it was. Probably around 2000. In fact, this looks pretty old. This looks like 2003 style thing where the forms look like forms and the buttons look like buttons, which is weird. MapQuest, when they made their routing, they were relying on the old maps, like paper maps, digitized versions of the paper maps, because they didn't have Google Earth, and Apple didn't do their mapping, and Google didn't do their mapping, the Street View and all that stuff. They didn't have that, so they were kind of ahead of their time, where it worked, but a lot of people thought it was inaccurate. You had to print out. My wife reminded me, you had to like print out the sheet. You're like, oh my god, you print out your turn by turn directions. So you're in the car, like, oh my god, make it left here. Um, don't forget, this is the time before navigation was available in cars and on the phone, and that kind of changed everything. But like I said before, MapQuest failed. It didn't deliver what it said it was going to deliver. Not because it didn't work, but I think because it didn't deliver the promise of what it was supposed to do. It was supposed to be like the perfect mapping software, and it ended up sending a lot of people on these crazy like wild goose chases. Oh boy. So, all right. Well, YouTube is giving me some errors. YouTube says no data. YouTube is giving me YouTube is giving me some kind of errors and saying that there's no bandwidth available or whatever it is. So I'm going to call it a night if that's okay. Okay, thanks a lot for giving me the time. Again, this is brought to you by EDE Society. My name is John Ash, and this is DIY Startup. Stay tuned for the next scheduled stream, which will probably be next Friday. All right. Okay, thanks a lot. This is John Ash. Bye-bye. Thanks.